And welcome to another episode of Spare from the Past. Today we're going to be talking about Judgment Day 2007, which is 2 years from last day we talked about earlier in the series. But I've got Sody to talk about this one. Sody, how
Hello.
are you going?
I'm doing pretty good. This is my first time doing this on a phone, so this is gonna be fun.
Um, but with that, we're going to jump um, straight into this. But yeah, um, so first, they were it's really funny because like the poster for Judgment Day 2007 has Kane on the poster, but Kane only features in a dark match, really not to a match
Yeah,
anyway because they don't obviously show it. But it was just an interesting thing to have someone on the poster that wasn't in the pay per view at
it's
any.
it's one of the downfalls of having your PR department create things like that so far in advance.
Yeah,
Like
I will say it was a kick
the
ass
most
poster.
famous one was Vengeance 2001, which was the December pay per view, and it had Triple H on the poster, but was out with a quad injury, and they never changed it. And that had happened like months before.
Yeah, but jumping into this, the first match that we had was Ric Flair defeating Carlito, which was a fun match. Like it had the usual things of Carlito spitting in the face of Ric Flair and Ric Flair doing his sort of usual Australian that, but like it
Woo!
was a very decent match. Um I've always really sort of enjoyed Carlito and I think and Ric Flair's always fun to watch. But so what are your thoughts about Ric Flair versus Carlito?
Um, so Carlito, I've always respected him, but he's never really moved the needle for me in terms of being a performer. But what's fun about this is the beginning of the end of Ric Flair's active WWE career because the next WrestleMania is the one against Shawn Michaels. So it's fun. It was fun to watch Ric Flair wrestle against the next generation and actually be able to keep up with them. So I thought this was a fun match, a good opener to set the pace.
Yeah. Um, but next up, we had a really short interview with like Grisham interviewing Shawn Michaels, but and then Orton attacking him. Obviously setting up the whole thing of will Shawn Michaels actually sort of come out to the ring for his match and all that. And just after the next match, we had another sort of quick thing of the doctor telling Shawn Michaels that he won't let him go out there.
Mhm.
But what are your thoughts about these two segments? Sort of like going to lead into the Randy Orton Michaels match later.
So I had forgotten this match and feud took place. Um, uh, this is not the first time we've seen this type of angle with Shawn Michaels. All the way back to 1995 with a concussion and Owen Hart, and then there was his feud with Chris Jericho. I think the following year. So this is something that it's a Shawn Michaels trope almost. So it was all right. Like I said, I'd forgotten this feud had even happened.
Um, but But talking about feuds, I actually forgot happened until I looked at the list when I
Uh,
spun this. Like we had Bobby Lashley defeating the trio of Mr. McMahon, Shane McMahon, and Umaga. Umaga is kind of the odd one out of that thing. I get that he was kind of the heavy for Mr. McMahon and
yeah.
that. Um, it was, but I, and but it's one of those ones like it was a really good match. Like it was a fun match, like with the usual like 1-on-3 things. And Bobby Lashley getting the win by pinning Shane. And then after the match, we had Bobby celebrating his win, but then Umaga attacks him from behind. Vince takes the title and says that because Bobby didn't pin him, then he doesn't win the title. Which um, which was a stipulation which I don't know if they mentioned it on a Raw, but I'm almost I'm almost certain they just introduced it as an ECW championship match without sort of um talking about the stipulations before the match, which I think was maybe a mind game on Bobby Lashley in the first place. But so what are your thoughts about Bobby Lashley versus Mick Man's and Umaga?
So this is a feud that I don't think I can ever forget because I remember at the time it was just like, what the fuck, man, Vince, what the fuck are you doing? Um, this was a fun match. This is typical WWE bullshit. Um, this is when they were trying to make Bobby Lashley a thing. Like now gets all the accolades and all that stuff, but um, back then I remember they were trying to make him a thing, and the fans weren't really wanting it that much. So yeah, like I said, this was an match. Bobby Lashley and Umaga deserved better, in my opinion.
I Yeah, no, I mean it's one of those ones it's one of those ones it's of like I don't like um and it's been a week since I watched it. I don't, I think Mr. McMahon's like spent most of the time outside the ring anyway. So
Yeah.
Bobby Lashley never had a chance to pin him in the first place, which which I think is probably one of the most bullshit parts. So if you're going to have that if you're going to make that stipulation, like kind of make it sort of not look so obvious that was going to be the angle you're going to do it.
Yeah. That's the thing. Vince McMahon, as the last 20 years of his booking career, didn't really care for, sense, which was the issue. Um, yeah. By this point, Vince didn't really need to be in the storylines. And honestly, the most memorable thing to come from this is the image of Vince in the do-rag. That's basically it.
Yeah. Um, but um, But moving on, we had like another ECW match, which was CM Punk facing off against Elijah Burke. I I did not remember who Elijah Burke was. Like, he's definitely not one of those ones that everyone talks about these
Mm-hmm.
days. But but I mean, it was a decent match. Punk is has always been great in the ring.
Mm-hmm.
And like it did sort of what it needed to do. I don't know if there was kind of a rivalry behind this match or not, but it was just one of those matches that was there. But so what are your thoughts about Punk versus Burke?
Um, so funny enough, according to Wikipedia, this is the longest match on the card. Um,
Yeah,
that's the thing about CM Punk's the ECW stuff. Like, he was clearly good in the ring, but the matches themselves weren't really memorable. Um, Coming up, I believe actually is when I started like his memorable stuff started happening, which would be his feud with John Morrison. I had forgotten about Elijah Burke's this match with Elijah Burke. He's one of those guys that every time I see him on Twitter because he works for NWA, it's like, oh yeah, that guy. Is he still around?
um, yeah, no, it's definitely going to be one of those ones. Like there's definitely another match coming up, which like I forgot about these wrestlers. I remember playing them in a video game, but
Yeah, me too. Me too.
But next up we had the ring announcer. I think her name was Crystal, interviewing Edge. It was just basically one of those accomplishment bragging type things. Like there wasn't really much in this
Oh
match.
yeah.
But what do you thoughts about it anyway?
I honestly, it's been a little bit since I watched it too, and I honestly don't remember.
Yeah, I mean it's one of those ones like a lot of these, especially in this year, a lot of these backstage segments were mostly interviews where they just
Yeah.
talk, like there really wasn't much coming out of it. The exception of the Orton Michaels ones from earlier,
Hmm.
but speaking of which, the next match we had covered on the card is Randy Orton versus Shawn Michaels. Orton comes out the ring and tells Justin Roberts to announce him as the winner. Sean, um, Sean's music then hits. He comes to the ring. I mean, the match was short and decent. Like it was pretty much like Randy Orton just kind of beating up on this already sort of really concussed Shawn Michaels, and with him getting the quick win with is it, I can't remember if he actually won it or if it was just like the match was thrown out,
It,
but
it was a match stoppage.
yeah, and then like Randy Orton just completely continued to sort of destroy Shawn Michaels, and he was then wheeled out on a stretch. So, like, and I will say this, like, even though like calling this a match, like, is it's kind of it's one of those ones like I can't remember if it was you or someone else, but we talked about like Baron Corbin versus Braun Strowman from earlier. It was just pretty much a lot of people just ambushing Corbin with Braun getting the win. But this was kind of a similar thing. This was kind of a match slash segment type thing, and
Yeah.
but it was pretty like it was entertaining. Like Randy Orton did, like I miss the days of Randy Orton as a heel.
Oh, he's so good as a heel, but at this point, he's reached that point where he'll never be booed again. I don't think.
Yeah. Although I think like I mean I know a lot of people want it, and I think if they do, I think they can make it work if it happens. Like have Orton turn on Cody Rhodes. Like
Well,
I think
yeah,
that
obviously with that, but I mean, like the thing is, once that feud's over, they'll probably be back to cheering Orton again, right?
true. Yeah.
Like with Shawn Michaels, like back in what the year when he faced Hulk Hogan, he was supposed to be the bad guy in that match, but the next night he was a face again.
Yeah. Um. But um. But yeah, what are your thoughts on the whole like Randy Orton, Michaels?
This was all right. Like you said, it was a match segment. I'm using Wikipedia here for the background of like the aftermath and stuff. And this just seems like it was a way to write off Shawn Michaels until October is when he returned to restart the feud. Um, so yeah, no, this is if that's what this was to way to write Shawn Michaels out. This is a good way to do it. So yeah.
Yeah. And then next we had like a quick I believe this is the last interview segment of Todd Grisham interviewing the great Khali, who spoken Punjabi most of the time. Like
Naturally.
they really as he does. Like it's I think this was before they gave him a translator or a can't.
Um, yeah, I think so. This is actually when he debuted.
Yeah.
This was, I think, his first match, one of his first matches.
I mean,
Yeah,
it probably wouldn't make sense. Like,
yeah. This was before they brought in Ranjan Singh and all that stuff.
yeah. But moving on, moving on from that, like as I said, those interview segments, there really isn't much to go on,
No.
especially with that one anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Uh,
Like a lot of the interview segments from this time and for years following, that not for the most part were forgettable.
but next up we had the Hardy Boys versus Lance Cade and Trevor Murdoch, the Real Tag Team Champions. I mean, Cade and Murdoch is one of the as the other wrestlers I kind of referring to. I forgot it existed, but I remember playing them in video games.
Yeah. Um, Lance Cade, unfortunately, is one of those cautionary tales. Passed away way too young. Trevor Murdoch went on to become the NWA World Heavyweight Champion during the COVID years, I think it was. Um, this was actually a pretty decent match. I know WWE wasn't really much for tag team wrestling, but Lance Cade and Trevor Murdoch were very underrated, and this match shows just how good they were as a team, in my opinion. And I mean the Hardys at this time, which was weird. 2 months prior, they were having a feud, so they're the champs here. It's a little weird, but whatever.
Yeah, yeah, no, like the Hardys match is always like a really always really exciting to watch,
Hmm.
and I really enjoyed it. Like, I think this match was great, and then after the match, like from what I understand, like there was a bit of story of Kane and Murdoch being like bad guys, and then they're trying to sort of transition to being good guys because they had both teams shake hands after the match, and um, but yeah, it was a good match, and like Hardy's retain, and yeah, but moving on, we had Edge versus Batista for the World Heavyweight Championship. And this is one of those ones like I wish I write more notes for these sometimes, but like Edge matches are always fun to watch, and this is just a
Oh yeah.
really great match. And I think that probably the most surprising thing about this is that like instead of it being like a pin win. They had Edge do like a roll up win,
Hmm.
which from what I've sort of read is kind of unusual for. 'Cause I think Edge was the heel going into this, if I remember.
Edge was like the heel in everything at this time.
Yeah.
Um, like this is like peak Edge rated R superstar during this time.
So what are your thoughts about Edge versus Batista?
So these two actually have really good chemistry. I just wish the match was longer. Actually, it's only like 10 minutes long. Um, yeah, no, these two really had good chemistry, and Batista like physically beat the shit out of Edge. I remember Edge saying that in one of the documentaries. Yeah, no, this was a good match. They would have better matches, in my opinion, on other shows.
Um, Yeah, and it's one of those ones that was I was reading on a couple of sort of reviews for this in the like some of the people that I read sort of when they're talking about this one, like there's apparently like, they were sort of saying like it's kind of unusual for like the heel to sort of get like a roll up win in the hit.
Well, back in the day, not so much, but at this time, oh yeah, definitely. Even that's not something you would see. It was always finisher pin, right? Um,
Yeah,
and that it's kind of refreshing actually to see a heel resort to a move like that. I wish they would do it more often.
yeah, but moving on, and I honestly didn't realize the actual timing of this pay per view because we had
Yep,
MVP versus Chris Benoit, which would have
2 months.
unfortunately, yeah, would have which is unfortunately, I think this is his last match too. So I don't think we had any more after this. Before he kind of gets himself and like does a whole lot of shit and
Yeah.
um,
This
but
wasn't his last match. Because he got drafted to ECW, and he was in a tournament to determine the ECW champion,
oh yeah.
and it was the night he was supposed to win the title was when you know that
Yeah.
shit happened.
Um, but but all that aside, like the match, like I've said this before. Whenever I've talked about Chris Benoit, like he's been a great. He is a good he was a good wrestler. Like
Oh yeah, you
so
can't
it's
deny it.
yeah like and it's just one of those ones like it's a shame that kind of um WWE are like do all this like um hiding him from history and all that. But unfortunately, it's just one of those ones like when it comes
So
to controversy like that. But
can I ask you, were you watching at this time?
no, I
Okay.
think I think I started a couple years after
Okay.
this.
So I can remember this time very vividly because I was a fan. I was watching Monday nights, I was watching Friday nights, and of course I grew up with Chris Benoit. And I remember when that happened, it almost single-handedly ruined professional wrestling. So, I mean, it is pretty understandable why they completely wiped him from history. Um, so like yeah, this was to be a wrestling fan was interesting at this time. Let's just say.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those ones. Like, I get why they did.
Yeah,
it's but it's just one of those ones. Like it is a shame that like Benoit did that
yeah,
specific thing.
exactly. There'll always
And
be that. There'll always be that icky feeling whenever you watch a Benoit match.
yeah,
And like Paul Heyman said it perfectly. Hall of Fame pro wrestler, piece of shit human being.
yeah. Uh, which is actually funny that now you think about it, is like there's two people in this pay per view that WWE actively trying to avoid mentions of, but Mr. McMahon being the other one.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah, yeah. No kidding. Two really bad people.
Speaking of which, I'm actually looking forward to seeing that documentary. That I think it
Me
comes out
too. Me too.
tonight.
Now that I'm here, hearing some of the things about it, yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, because I know Dan Skip Allen said it's really good.
Yeah, I read his review and that he posted in that chat.
But moving on, also, just a quick side note, because in one of the reviews I read, apparently, on the actual broadcast of this pay per view, just before this match, I think it was either just before this match or just before the last match. They had this random sort of divas segment where they talked to divas and asked who they think was going to win, but for whatever reason, they edited it out on the WWE Network version, um, which I thought was odd, but
Hmm.
they obviously cut it out for reason. Obviously, we can't talk about it. Obviously, it's not on the version that we watched.
Yeah.
But but yeah, it was just really interesting. Like because I think it was basically them just talking to the wrestlers, to the divas, and asking who they thought would win. Which so it's weird that they cut that out. Also, another thing of note that I actually forgot that WWE did before pay per views is earlier on they did this whole thing where they showed a poll. It's like, oh, which of these people is going to win the title, like
Hmm.
the titles? Like watching these pay per views back is like it's just interesting seeing those really kind of small nuggets of things that like they used to do
Yeah,
between
it's
matches.
things you
It was
forget that they used to do. Outside of the Cyber Sunday pay per view, yeah, I don't remember them doing polls like this that much. But yeah, it's always interesting to see how far we've come.
yeah. And nowadays it's like, you know what, this movie is coming out. It stars Drew McIntyre. It's like,
Yeah, it's like okay then. Or
but
like
anyway,
for example, we get like those cinematic promos like we just got with Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes. Like we've come a long way, man.
oh yeah, I really hope we get more of those kind of cinematic promos.
Oh,
Was
we probably will.
yeah, I mean, it's not like it's one of those ones like even just with the why it's like six
Oh yeah.
like Easter eggs and stuff that they're bringing out, and um, I mean, kind of. I'm kind of bummed that we aren't seeing the right six wrestle match at the moment while they sort of setting up their next feud. But like, if that's what
Well,
they want,
I think there's. It looks like there's rumors there's going to introduce a new member to the group. Because Alexa Bliss's doll appeared in the background of some stuff on Monday night.
well, yeah, no, it's one of those ones like, no, yeah, um, I mean that's kind of one that I kind of figured that would happen eventually. Like, there's been
It
rumors
has
that
to.
it's going to be. I mean, there's also talks of especially with that new article that appeared in the journal from the Hero Trade from last week. With the whole thing that they're talking about, like a lot of people speculating they're actually going to add Braun and back into the group as well.
Braun? Yeah, I don't know about that one. Um,
Well, I mean, it's one of those ones like with the new sort of journal entry that they introduced. Like, it talks about like you and my brother, and we'll be there if you need us to help. So,
Yeah, okay.
So a lot of people
I'm hearing
speculating the
that.
White Six are going to help Braun against Bronson as well. So
Yeah,
anyway,
I could see that. I could see that. I don't see him ever joining the group, but I could definitely see them working together.
yeah. But anyway, going back to this,
Yeah, back in
but
time.
yeah, then we had the main event of John Cena versus the Great Khali. The backstory of this was like the Great Khali stole Cena's title and Cena had to get him back. And it was interesting because they had like even though John Cena was the champion, John Cena came out first.
Hmm.
And like maybe there was a cause like Carly actually had the title and they wanted the title to come out last. I don't know. The match itself was pretty short, but it's I mean it's one of those ones and I'm familiar enough with Great Khali matches that Great Khali he's not the best wrestler,
No.
but it's like so and it's one of those ones I don't know how if he could do sort of longer matches when it's just like a straight sort of one-on-one type.
So definitely not. Yeah, his matches for the most part sucked. Because he's more of an attraction. That's all he really was. He was an attraction. But with that being said, yeah, this match wasn't. Eh. It was the next month where Coley had arguably his best match, which is against Cena. This was more like just a warm up. Yeah, no, Great Khali. I get it why he's in the Hall of Fame, but it's definitely not as a wrestler.
Yeah. Um, but that's the pay per view. So if you could go back in time and change sort of one booking decision on this pay per view, what would you change?
If I'm being honest, I would actually have taken time away from CM Punk, Elijah Burke. Nothing against them, but their match should not have been the longest, and I would have given more time to Edge and Batista. That's what I would have done.
Yeah. And honestly, for me, I would have just change. While it works for storyline wise, I probably would have changed the whole bullshit thing of having Mr. McMahon sort of hanging
Yeah.
outside of the ring, and actually made it look like he's trying to win,
Hmm.
rather than doing the bullshit thing of oh, you didn't pin me, you're not getting the title.
Hmm.
Um, but Soda, overall, what would you rate this pay per view out of 5 stars?
I probably would give it 3 stars out of 5. This was a decent pay-per-view, but the thing is, WWE during this time, this was basically the beginning of the meh era of WWE. So yeah, it was adequate enough, but it's not one I would watch on a regular. I would watch again for a while.
Um, for me, I actually probably I went a little bit higher. I would have gone 3.5 out of 5. Um, I had a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun with the matches. Well, there was some matches that definitely weren't as good as they could have been, or
Yeah.
were just sort of stupid booking decisions. A lot of, there are also not a lot of matches. It's I would write home about and say, "Oh,
Hmm.
you should check out this match for sure." But with that being said, it's time to spin the wheel. See what the next week's pay per view I'm going to be talking about is. It's going to be WCW Uncensored 1995.
Oh my fucking god! You are in for a horrible show.
I mean, it's one of those ones when it comes to WCW, it's yeah,
No, I'm
it
quickly
was,
taking a look to make sure it is the one. Oh yeah. Nope. Never mind. Sorry, I was thinking 1996. Never mind.
yeah.
I was thinking the one with the Hogan and Savage versus the whatever the end Hulkamania, and it was like Ric Flair and Arn Anderson in one cage, and Lex Luger and somebody else in another cage, and
Yeah,
oh my lord, it's thank God that's not the one you rolled.
yeah.
Oh, actually, this one has an infamous match on it. I'll tell you about it out in the green room.
But with that, there'll be the pay per view I talk about next week. But so do we can people find you online?
You can find me on my personal Instagram and Twitter at soda_the_saxman. I don't really do much on YouTube anymore, so yeah.
And you can find me on Tape Two Productions hosting Rankum every week. Next week, I'm doing Rankum on Monday for a change, just because I'm busy on Sunday and I can't do it then. And the topic is going to be top 12 Final Destination death scenes, um, excluding the opening premonitions, just because one, like, it'll be easy for one of those to be number one. Like, that would be like an easy number one that would get on. But that and I want to focus more on the individual scenes. And I'll be back next week on Spear from the Past talking about WCW Uncensored. You definitely got a couple of people that I know into WCW and that I can ask to be on. And yeah, and you can also find me popping up here and now and everywhere. I'll be back tomorrow on the Movie Hero Network doing the 2000 letter series, part 2. And yeah, but until next time, that is the end of the show, and we shall see you in the ring next time.